Hello, everyone. We are here on the David Irie Foundation page with this edition of Going to Bat with Team Irie. This is episode number 29. If you've missed some of the previous episodes, you can go to our foundation page, scroll down, and check some of those out. And if you'd like to watch some of our upcoming episodes, just keep an eye on the foundation page there. And we usually post it the day before or the day of. And then, if you'd like to donate to the foundation where we raise money for spinal cord injury research and also baseball and softball high school scholarships, you can check that out in our upcoming events that we do in public when we're allowed to do so. You can go to our website, which is dif35.org. Tonight's guest is the legend, Al Oliver. How you doing tonight, Al?
Hey, Dave, I'm doing great, man. I have no complaints. And, of course, with the virus going around, it's right up my alley because I've always been a homebody anyway. And so whenever I have something to do, I do it in the morning and get it out the way, come back home, kick back and watch it in the heat of the night. And then in the evening, I have to watch Perry Mason and those shows. That is what keeps me going. I'm lucky to be a TV guy. It doesn't take much to please me. I've always been kind of low key.
Yep, and that sounds a lot like me. I'm like you, kicking back, and I love the heat of the night. Gillespie and Tibbs and Bubba and all that. That's big fan of that. And I watched Perry Mason this weekend and thought a lot about you when I was watching Perry Mason. So we're a lot alike, Al. Maybe that's the reason we get along so well.
Yeah, I enjoy Perry Mason, especially when he gets the guy or the lady up there on the stand. And when he started raising his voice, I've noticed when he raises his voice, that person on the stand is usually not the one.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, someone out in the audience panics. And then they stand up and say, I did it. It was me. I had to do it. And that's the part that I like. And another show that I really like is Columbo.
Yeah.
Columbo, he's the type of guy that would put you in a psychiatric ward. If you did something wrong, that's one guy you do not want to be following you around. Because he can put some pressure on you.
Yep, exactly. You got that right. I agree with you. We'll get started here a little bit and talk about yourself and get people to know you. What I'd like to start out with, Al, if you don't care, is could you tell me a little bit about your parents? I know I read where your mom was a good cook, and thinking back about your mother and being a cook, was there a favorite meal that she used to cook that you used to love?
Well, when I grew up, it's a question as a young kid, we ate everything. But probably the biggest meal that we had that was constant and consistent was probably meatloaf and mashed potatoes, fried chicken, green beans, mashed potatoes. I mean, that's just the way it was. And we were really into eating a lot of beans. Pinto beans was one of my favorites. And of course, as a whole, we all liked hamburgers.
Yeah.
And everybody in our household loved hamburgers. And so I really didn't have a preference, Dave, as long as the food was good, and which it was. And she was a great cook. I wish I would have had her a lot longer than what I did, because I did lose her when I was 11 years old. But after that, Dad was a great cook. And so I was the only one in the family that could not cook. My sister was a good cook. My brother was a great cook. But I got lost in the shuffle somewhere.
Can you cook now?
Hey, that's a good question. I got divorced about 8 or 9 months ago. And that was the adjustment that I had to make. After all these years, I had to learn how to cook. And what was so funny is I went to the supermarket with my daughter. And so she took a picture of me pushing a cart and put it on Facebook. And I got all kind of comments because people who know me, Al Oliver pushing a cart in a grocery store, that is a no-no. But finally, about a week later, I finally cooked my first meal, and it was fish, baked beans, and coleslaw. So
Wow.
after I did that, I was pretty much on my way.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And also, you're lucky you don't live too far from the river.
No, I don't. That's one thing about the Portsmouth area. Things are pretty close to one another. You probably can go anywhere in Portsmouth in 10 minutes at the most. And another good thing is my daughter lives maybe about 4 or 5 blocks from me, and she'll cook maybe 2 times a week. And that's a big help because I know when I first started cooking, what I was afraid of, and it would have been a plus if my penthouse, I call it, if there would have been a fire, the fire department was maybe a block and a half away. So I felt pretty comfortable there just in case something got caught on fire.
Yeah, exactly. And it sounded like to me your mom done a lot of what I call country cooking and
Oh
talking
man.
about pinto beans and mashed potatoes, fried and fried chicken. I mean, that's my kind of food.
Yeah. Now that's what you call Southern cooking.
Yeah.
And of course Portsmouth is right there on the river. And that's exactly pretty much the type of foods that we had back then. Everybody ate basically the same type of food. And I think that had a lot to do with a lot of us, especially as athletes. Most of us were strong athletes, and we were in shape, and we went out and played all the time. And then when we came back home, of course, that was after we did our homework, of course. But then it seems like the activities that we did kept us in shape, and none of us got fat or heavy when we were going to school, especially grade school, junior high school, and high school, was because we were very active.
Yeah, and we were talking about earlier too, your mom and your dad. Now your dad used to play basketball, and he also played for the Harlem Globetrotters, didn't he?
Yeah, Dad played several games with the Harlem Globetrotters, back when they had Goose Tatum, back in those days. He was an excellent athlete. And as far as a track guy, he definitely was the fastest one in our family. And we had a few guys in our family that could run, but he was the fastest of all of us. I would say my son, who played wide receiver at Texas A&M in the 90s, he was next, and then me and my grandson now. We were close as far as speed-wise. But Dad was a tremendous athlete back in his day, and that's where my athletic skills came from. It was in the bloodlines.
Exactly. I know when we played softball, we didn't have speed because my whole family they called us crick turtles.
Oh Lord.
but but uh, but anyway, but your dad also he ran some a backup in the Olympics too, wasn't he?
Yes, he was second back to Jesse Owens in the 1936 Olympics over in Berlin. So it would have taken at least one more guy to have gotten hurt or whatever, and he would have made that trip to Berlin in 1936. So he very seldom talked about it. It was other people that told me because
Yeah.
I had no clue. I don't think I heard that he was a great athlete in his day, and that's pretty much all I heard. He never talked about it.
Wow. And then your dad worked there at the brickyard, I think they talked about, and then right before you called up, most people, I've had on here, we've talked about, the great experience of getting called up and, to the majors and, how they never forget. But your, yours was kind of not being called up, but it's kind of tragic situation that went on when you were
Right.
called up.
Yeah. Dad had gotten sick in 1966. He worked at the brickyard, as you had mentioned, and he had worked there a long time. That's hard work. And then after so many years, sometimes you're lucky and sometimes you're not. But eventually, the dust started to accumulate in his lungs, and that's what slowed him up. He started slowing up, And it seemed like once I took him to the doctor, he got better. He didn't do bad in 1967. And then in 68, I looked at him and I saw where he was slowing up. And so the one positive thing was in 1968, I was playing in Columbus, Ohio, which was the Pittsburgh Pirates AAA team. So at least I had a chance to come home and visit with him. But he's a very spiritual man, and he knew eventually that he's going to leave. And the one thing they told me, he said, "Son, only thing I want you to do is just take care of your brother and sister." And just as we speak today, both of them are gone. And I lost my sister last March. You know, she was a year and 5 months younger than I, and my brother Jim was 9 years younger. And you know, he was battling, you know, with various illnesses. But I did the best that I could do. And one thing that I will always have is total appreciation for Dad, because working in the brickyard, as most people, you know, when they hear this, know that is hard work. And he worked hard for his 3 kids, and I will always have total appreciation for him.
Yeah, I mean, what I've read about your parents, you had some great parents, and you know, I can see why you're the person you are today because you were brought up right. I mean, you had great parents, and you know, you of course you have to treasure that. You know, you know, with the minor league, was it a struggle, like going through the minor league system, or did it seem like you made it to the major leagues pretty easy?
I made it easy. Sid Thrift was the guy that signed me. And when he signed me, he said that it would take me no longer than 4 years to make it to the major leagues. And he was right on target at that time. You know, signing in 64 and 65 in that time period, if you got up to the big leagues in 3 or 4 years, you were moving pretty good. So it was fairly easy for me because, you know, I had good years every year that I played. And I knew it was a matter of time, especially when I played at Columbus. And that was a real good year for me. And going backward just a little bit, you had mentioned, you know, when Dad got sick and I got this phone call saying that he had taken a turn for the worse. So I had packed the car up and went home. I knew I wasn't coming back to Columbus. You know, we were getting ready to go into the playoffs. And I had to come home. And then once I got home, maybe about 4 or 5 hours later, he had passed and I had to make the funeral arrangements. And then the next day, after his funeral, I had to drive to Pittsburgh to become a major leaguer. And so it was a solo trip. You know, I drove by myself and I had some thoughts. Um, I, I didn't cry or anything like that. I just felt that he did what he was supposed to do. Now it was on me to do what I was supposed to do. And I like to think that I did a pretty good job and followed his instructions. And I always said that if I did mess up, it wouldn't have been his fault. It would have been mine.
Yeah, and you know, Al, I mean, we're good friends. We have been for a long time, but I'm telling you, they don't come much better now, Oliver. So, you know, your dad, you know, whatever you know, your dad taught you and the person you are today, I mean, he would be proud of you. That's for sure.
Yeah, the one thing he always told me, and I remember when I was in the 4th grade, he said, "Son," he said 2 things: get your rest and stay out of the streets.
Yeah.
And so I pretty much carried that on, you know, throughout my career. That's not to say that I didn't go out at all, but very seldom I went out because I was a room service guy. And after a game, when we got off the bus on the road, you probably wouldn't see me again until the next day when the bus was going to the ballpark for the next game.
But you were rested up and ready to go then.
Oh, I was rest. Oh, yeah, I got my rest. That's one thing that I did do. Um, I never was tired. I never got tired. I never got tired of flying. People have asked me many a times, did I ever get tired flying, which I never did, because I did get my rest.
You know, I was just thinking, Of course, you won the World Series with the Pittsburgh Pirates, I believe, in '71, and
Mm-hmm.
that was also the first time in history that you had an all-black team. What does
Yeah,
that What does that mean? I mean, it's historic, but for all that to happen in one year and being on the team that was all black, first time in history, and win the World Series, I mean, that had to be one heck of a year.
it was. It was a great year. And as far as having 9 minorities on the team at the same time, at that time, I really wasn't aware of that because the Pittsburgh Pirate organization was known to have a lot of Latin players and black players. And usually, if Doc Ellis pitched, we had six that started anyway. Our whole outfield, and we had Dave Cash at second, and Jackie Hernandez, and of course, if Doc pitched, it was six of us out there anyway. So putting three whites out there, it wasn't that noticeable.
Yeah,
And I was totally unaware of it until about the third or fourth inning. I was on the bench, and it dawned on me that all of a sudden, I said to Dave Cash, I said, "Man, you know what? We got all brothers out there." And he said, "We sure do." But what was ironic about that game was in '71, every now and then, Danny Murtaugh would give me a day off. Usually I was playing center field. But strangely enough, that night, Bob Robertson always played first base against left-handers. And we were facing Woody Fryman. And Woody could be tough on left-handers on a given night. And so as a result of that, I played first base. And that was the key to the whole thing of having 9 on the field at the same time. But it was something that we as players didn't think about because we were just loaded with Latin players and black players anyway. And we knew whether you were white or black, whoever we put on the field, our chances of winning was good. But to be part of history will always stand out. And it really didn't mean that much to me until after I left the game. And today, it means more today than it did when it actually happened.
exactly. And I know you can't see some of the comments, but Courtney Gorman, she says hi. Brandon Walker said, "Wow, awesome, Al. Thank you for coming on." Steve Dragon, he said, "Man, did he swing hard? Loved watching him bat. I grew up in Pittsburgh."
Oh,
Kyle
okay.
Ruggles, Kyle Ruggles says, "I'll say it once, I'll say it again. Al Oliver should be in the Hall of Fame," which we hear that a lot. So I mean, and I agree with them 100%. But who gave you the name Scoop?
Scoop came in 1965. I was playing in Gastonia, North Carolina. And I always had the ability to scoop balls up out of the dirt. And the one thing that I could do with my glove hand, it was hard to get a ball by me, whether it's a bad throw from an infielder or the possibility of someone getting a hit. Um, Hitting a ball by me was very difficult to do. I always kid people. I said, now, I didn't miss too many balls with my glove hand, but I always said, look, if a ball's hit to me and it's a double play situation, I always made sure the left fielder was ready because every now and then I did airmail, a few balls. I had to be honest about that. But it was really funny because when I was at Montreal, I had a bone spur in my shoulder, and I wasn't concerned about fielding the ball. It was that I had to throw it. If you field it, what you gonna do with it? Just get it and run to first base, or try to make the double play. So Tim Raines was playing left, and I told Rock, I said, look, if the ball's hit to me in a double play situation, you should be charging because I might just hit you on the fly. But but other than that, it started at Gastonia, the owner of the ball club, and a sports writer saw this scooping ability, the being able to field any kind of ground ball, and it stuck. Bob Robertson was there that year. Bob started out as third baseman, And so you got to have somebody to come up with you to keep that name going. And so the next year, of course, I played with Richie Hebner. And so I actually got the name Scoop as a defensive first baseman. And it's ironic that everyone calls me Scoop, but no one knows how that name started. And it's kind of ironic because I have not been asked that question probably more than 10 times
Wow.
in my lifetime.
Wow.
So it was for my defense at first
Wow.
base.
Yeah, and we all know how you can hit the ball, and we never really think about your defense, but you drilled it just like Pat Darcy said the other day when I interviewed him that you were the one of the scariest hitters that he ever faced.
Well, well, Pat. Well, Pat can pitch himself, and
Yeah.
I think the reason why Pat said that, if I had to guess, I was the type of hitter that I used the whole field. There wasn't a certain way to pitch me. It was inside. I was quick enough to be able to turn on the ball. If the ball was pitched out over the plate, I was able to drive the ball to left field. I was hard to strike out, and that's probably why he said that. But I definitely appreciate Pat not forgetting and give me a little credit and letting the people know that um, I did pretty good. Did pretty
Yeah, and
good.
most people I talk to, and we both love Dave Parker, but Dave would get some blue pits. Now Al Oliver Al would drill him. I mean, that's the reason the pitchers was scared because they knew when you came up there, it could be right back down their throat. That's how hard you hit the ball.
I did hit a lot of balls back up the middle, and believe me, I did not do it on purpose, but because I wasn't that good. But the fact of the matter was, I think the reason why I hit a lot of balls back up the middle was because I waited on the ball,
Yeah,
and I waited till the last possible second, and then I would turn. I always had quick hands, and that was the reason why I hit a lot of balls back up the middle. I know a lot of pitchers that I see today. That's the first thing that they say. Um, they were not going to throw me the ball out over the plate because all of a sudden here it comes. It's coming back up the middle, and I took a lot of pride in that, being able to wait on the ball, be quick, because the longer you wait on the ball, the quicker you have to be. And that's why I didn't get fooled a whole lot. And that was probably my strongest gift as a hitter, being able to wait on the pitch.
exactly. We've got Tom Posey up here. Tom, he says, go Expos. We all love those Expos uniforms.
Oh yeah.
And he said, thanks, Al, for telling us your stories. We got Alan Blake that says, hi, Alan, Al and David. Of course, Brandon Walker, my nephew's here. And Tom Posey says, Al, you're always welcome in Maysville. He doesn't put this part on here, but I'll put it on there for him. Al, you're always welcome in Maysville, and Tom Posey will buy every time you come down your lunch. He didn't
Oh.
say that, but I'll add that for him. But and Sue Corns is right there. So, was thinking about, back in your playing days with Pittsburgh, you know, we remember the Pittsburgh guys that they used to play Roberto Clemente, Willie Stargell. What was it like being teammates with guys like that?
It was easy. They made
Yeah,
me look good.
yeah,
And especially I was a first baseman all my life, from Little League all the way up until 1971. I had to make the transition from first base to center field, which was not an easy transition. But luckily, my athletic skills helped me a lot. I could run and go get the ball. The only thing that I had to adjust was my throwing arm. I had to stretch it out and to make those throws a lot stronger. But playing between Stargell and Clemente, my arm looked like a pea shooter because Roberto had a shotgun and Stargell had a great arm. A lot of people don't realize that Willie Stargell's arm was great, and they were two great outfielders. And once you go out there and play between those two guys, you do not want to embarrass yourself. And they made me a lot better outfielder. and actually they made me a lot better player too. You know, I might have thought that I was good, and I was pretty good, but when you get out there and you play between those two guys, you sit back and you think, you know, maybe I'm better than what I thought I was. Because if I wasn't as good as I thought I was, you know, I would have really looked bad playing between those two guys. But they helped me a lot as far as where to play certain hitters. That was a big plus because if I didn't know where to play, you know, there'd have been a lot more base hits there.
And Roberto Clemente, I mean, you know, he was such a nice guy. I've heard you talk about him a few times, and you know, flying down Central America, different places, taking care of people, and he was just an all around good guy, wasn't he?
He was great, and what Roberto did for me was he saw the talent in me, and but he saw more of his personality in me. And what I'm saying that is because when he first came up, he really didn't get a lot of good press from the writers. They really messed over the guy. This guy was a great guy, but they thought he was a hypochondriac. He thought some of them thought he was cocky, troublemaker, and things of that nature. And so when I came up, you know, I was a very confident guy. I was very positive, the same way as I am today.
Yeah.
That has not changed. But sometimes when people have not been around certain players of different cultures, then you have a tendency to take them the wrong way. And I think that's what happened with Roberto. And I know that is what has happened to me when I first came up. They didn't quite understand how a guy can come to the ballpark every day believing that he's going to get a hit every time he went to the plate. And sometimes I laugh at myself because in the history of baseball, nobody has ever hit 1,000 playing every day in the major leagues. But I went to the plate every time thinking and believing that I was going to get a base hit. And of course, you know, to this day, that's never happened. But that was the kind of attitude that I had. And Roberto came over to me one day and said, look, watch what you say, watch who you talk to, because they're always looking for something negative. And see, being raised in Portsmouth, Ohio, we were very friendly people. We talked to everybody. And I just took it for granted that the writers were my friends. And they would ask me questions and I would give them these honest answers, which I thought that was what I was supposed to do. But that wasn't the case because some of them might take that confidence the wrong way, and some of them did. And the unfortunate thing is when you do it early, your reputation sometimes that might can stick the rest of your career. And I really believe that slowed me up throughout my career as far as a lot of recognition, uh, being underrated, because some of the writers thought that I was a certain way in which I was not. But I didn't let that bother me. You know, I went on and played to the best of my ability. And so everything turned out okay.
Yeah, I remember reading one place somewhere it said talking about bragging, like it's not bragging if you can back it up or something, but it was some kind of quote you made, and I thought, you know, that's true. I mean, you know, you were just confident, and you know, you did what you did. It wasn't bragging. You done what you did.
Yeah, and you know, there is a difference of bragging and being confident. Um, I was probably the most quiet guy on the team. I was one that sit back and observed and laughed because we had other guys on our team that carried that part, like the Doc Ellis's. And then when Dave Parker came up, you know, the only thing I needed to do was just sit back and just watch those guys, you know, be our clubhouse lawyers. And speaking of Stargell, what Stargell did, Will was a prankster. And see, Will knew I didn't drink or smoke. So him and Doc Ellis they get together, and they get some what they do, and what really cracked me up was they would get some grapefruit juice and gin and put it in the glass, and I didn't know it, and so all of a sudden they always enjoyed me preaching. You know, I had a tendency to give some sermons and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But the bottom line was, I didn't know what they had done. So I'm sitting on the couch in spring training, sipping on this grapefruit juice, sometimes orange juice, and gin. And then all of a sudden, I was real quiet. And then all of a sudden, I got started. You know, there were certain guys who knew what button to push to get me going. And all the players knew, except me. And so they all held back with their laughter because I was sitting on the couch and all of a sudden I started feeling funny. And they watched me as I was getting up. And I struggled getting up. I said, now something's not right here. But this is what Sturgill did. Will knew that I was being platooned early in my career, and I didn't like it. And that was his way of loosening me up. He had a way with each player. He knew what to do one-on-one. He was excellent one-on-one with players. And that was his way of loosening Al Oliver up. And it worked.
Yeah, that'll definitely loosen you up.
That's for sure.
Yeah, Alan Blake says Lenny Barker told me Al hit the hardest ball ever off of him. Said it whipped by his head and ended up a line drive home run.
You know what? And it's so funny that you said that because I remember that. And Lenny, he threw the ball hard anyway.
Uh-huh.
And so yeah, I do recall that. I enjoyed hitting line drives all over the field because when you do that, it makes it tougher on a pitcher if he doesn't know exactly how to pitch. And I always said this, if a pitcher got me out, that was to his credit.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to give a pitcher credit, regardless of how good or how great a hitter you think you are. Those guys on that mound too, they're getting a salary, and their job is to get you out. And so I always gave pitchers credit. Hitters don't like to give pitchers credit, but there are times when you have to. Yes, I hit 303 lifetime, but if they couldn't pitch, I might hit 403.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, I earned that 303. They made me work for every hit that I got.
And 18 years hitting 303. Some years you hit 330. I saw 331 or something. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, you drilled it. I mean, and to be there for 18 years and have that such a batting average. I mean, that's really saying something. I see Patrick Armitage. He says family. He said being part of the first all minority lineup in 1971 in Pittsburgh was such a big deal, and which we talked about that, and to us and everyone else, it was a big deal. We've got Nancy Gully there. She's on here. We've got a bunch of people on here, and I was going to ask you now. This will be a hard question, and the reason this is going to be such a hard question is because you've done so much in your life and you've won so many different things. So, if you rank these in order, you don't have to really rank them in order. You can go your top ones or whatever here, but how would you rank this in order? Like Silver Slugger Award, your batting title, being a 7-time All-Star, the All-Star games, and winning the World Series. What would you consider number one out of all that?
Number one, easy. The 1971 World Championship. That's number one. Number two would be the batting title.
Yeah.
Of course, comes with that are Silver Sluggers. Whatever position you're playing, you're the best offensive player, on that list. And the fourth one, you gave me a fourth one too. You threw a fourth one in there, didn't you?
Yeah. You've got the Silver Sluggers, World Series batting title, and the All-Star games.
Yeah. The All-Star game probably would rank third behind the World Series, the batting championship, and the All-Star game. Because I was always a slow starter. And although I made 7 All-Star teams, if they would ever pick the All-Star game at the end of the season, I probably would have made 12. But
Yeah.
I was a slow starter, and come All-Star break is usually when I started. But, as we talk, a lot of people may not know this, that my mother's side of the family, they all came from Maysville.
Yeah.
And see, that's the connection that I have with Maysville. My mother came from Maysville, the whole family did. And that's how my dad met my mother, was in Maysville. He went down there for a basketball game, and he met my mother. And so I do still have some friends in Maysville. And like you say, Tom Posey said that whenever I come to
Yeah.
Maysville, he's going to pay.
Yeah.
But whenever I talk to Tom or you talk to him, tell him that now I like McDonald's and Wendy's and the Burger King, but I think that we can go a little higher than that. Yeah. Tell
Yeah.
him that he has to drop a dime.
Yeah. He did say after that, he did say, I will pay for your meals in Maysville. Love the Expos uniform. But I think he's got a few channelers in him.
I think so too. Yeah. But
Exactly.
I plan on coming to Maysville because I need to come to Maysville more often, because I do have some people down there I know. My mother's side of the family is from Maysville. And it's just a good place to come. And the downtown area, I think they've done a great job downtown. And it's just a good place to come and relax. It's not a long drive. So I will be making my trip down through Vansburg Way and your way on to Maysville and have some fun.
Exactly. Just let me know when you're going and I'll meet you there.
Uh-oh. So will you and Tom fight over who's gonna pay, or
No, I figured Tom just pay for both of us.
now we got a deal.
Exactly.
We got a
Exactly.
deal now.
Exactly. We talked about the early 70s. Now, you played against the Big Red Machine, and they
Yes.
called Pittsburgh the Lumber Company. And that's
Right.
because y'all could really hit the ball, right?
We could hit.
Yeah.
And what's ironic, we were called the Lumber Company, but when you look at those prior teams, the one guy that wasn't there was Clemente when they gave us that name. And it just doesn't seem right for the Pirates to be known as the Lumber Company. And we had already lost Roberto. So as far as I'm concerned, Roberto was the honorary chairman of our lumber company. We did have guys who could hit. I mean,
Yes.
I've never been on a team where when a guy made an out, he was mad. Every time. I mean, sometimes it was funny, but not funny to the teammates. But the guy that made the out, it wasn't funny. We would just sit back and just see what he would act, how he would act. Some guys might break a bat. Some might throw a helmet. I'm guilty of that. I have to admit. I broke a couple bats, and they always worried about Richie Hebner and I. And if we were ever hitting back to back, they would say, "Oh my God!" I said, "Please, please, let them get a hit," because when we came back to the dugout, you could sense the players being real loose. They were ready to move because they didn't know what we were going to do. But I've never seen a team that every time an out was made, they were mad. That's how competitive we were. The Cincinnati Reds, I grew up being a Reds fan, being from Portsmouth. But we never could beat the Reds in the playoffs. If we were going to beat the Reds in the playoffs, it would have been 1972. Those two teams were very close.
Yes.
And that was the year that we lost on a wild pitch. In 1970, I thought the Reds were better. I thought the Reds were better in 1975. But in 72, I don't necessarily think that the Reds were better. If anything, it was pretty much equal. Great hitting, good pitching. The Reds might have had a little bit more power throughout their lineup than we did, but we had the better hitters. But it was a great matchup. I enjoyed coming into Cincinnati. You know, they brought the buses down from Portsmouth, and some people said that I killed the Reds. I don't know how well I did against the Reds, but it was always a great atmosphere playing against the Reds because you had two teams that when they took the field, it was going to be some ball playing going on. And that's what I liked about that.
And just thinking about you had to leave an impression because, of course, Pat Dorsey pitched in '75 for the Big Red Machine, and for him to say what he said, apparently they knew that and Al Oliver came to town that he was going to be hitting, and of course, you left that impression on him, so you must really hit the ball hard against him. And also talking about the Big Red Machine, I mean, if some of the things would have went Pittsburgh's way, we probably wouldn't own the Big Red Machine as we do today because y'all could have made an impact on that.
Yes, because we had won in 71, and we were on our way again in 72. And I'm out in center field, I'm counting my World Series check. And and here comes Johnny Bench. It's a home run to right field. And I said, you got to be kidding me. Because John never hits home run to right field. And he did. And after that, then it was a wild pitch and it was over. But ironically, if we would have beat the Reds in 72, I would have faced one of my former teammates on my junior American Legion team, and that would have been Gene Tennis. And, we were teammates. And Gino would have never got any fastballs inside. And I was surprised because Gene Bennett was the scout, see? And I would have thought that he would have told the Reds, do not pitch Tennis inside with fastballs because Gino could turn the fastball around. And I said, Gino, you're lucky because if you'd have played us, you would not have seen a fastball inside, especially one that you could pull. But I was glad for him. That really made his career, with Oakland. I mean, no one had heard of him. And Gino could hit a fastball. I mean, anybody's fastball.
Yeah.
But I was glad for him, to see him get a World Series ring. And of course, my other teammate on the Junior American Legion team was Larry Heisel. And he was very fortunate to be coaching at Toronto when Toronto got in the World Series. And Larry got a World Series ring. So everybody that has played Major League Baseball, that's from Portsmouth, going way back to Del Rice and Rocky Nelson. We all have World Series rings, and that's very rare for a small town in which we come from.
Exactly. We got Richard Vingle on here. He said, great program, really enjoying it. Now, Richard, he played in the early 60s for the St. Louis minor league baseball team. I was talking to him the other day on Facebook, and he said back then they used to get hand-me-down clothes from the major league. They didn't do like they did today. And he said that, he had Bob Gibson's uniform, and he said, I should have took it home like all the other players did, and it would have been worth some money. So that, Richard, thanks for coming on here tonight.
I wonder if he knew at that time that was Bob Gibson's hand-me-down.
I don't know.
He probably didn't know.
Yeah, we'll see if he comments here in a minute. He's watching, so he'll probably comment here in a minute. We talked about your Pittsburgh days, and we're about ready to move on from that. But you told us a story about Willie Stargell and stuff. Is there any other good clubhouse stories you can tell us from your Pittsburgh days? Because everybody remembers those so well, your Pittsburgh days.
Well, one of the funniest things, and it seemed like Doc Ellis was always involved. It's been documented. I guess it's been documented that Doc pitched a no-hitter on LSD. Well, I was playing first base that night in San Diego, rather than center field. And Doc was the best friend that I had in baseball. Now, Doc could pitch. He was a good pitcher, but I'm here to tell you that I don't think no pitcher can throw a no-hitter on LSD. It's hard enough to throw a no-hitter if you haven't taken nothing. But I think what happened, Doc, he might have set the press up for that one. And it worked. I know he had an off day. We had an off day in San Diego, and he's from LA, so he went home. So I don't know what Doc did when he went home. I don't know what he was dealing with. I have no idea. And I was talking to a guy the other day, and I couldn't believe he asked me this question. He said, did I see Doc take LSD? I said, no. Matter of fact, I didn't see any player on our team in my career take anything. They might have, but I personally did not see it. And I told him, if I did see Doc take LSD, I wouldn't tell you. And then he asked me this, why not? Now, what kind of question is that? I mean, did he really expect me to answer that? I wasn't born last night,
Right.
but that was the story about Doc. Doc had the hair rollers, in his hair. We were in Cincinnati one day, and, in Cincinnati, they give you a little card, that you get to the clubhouse. And Doc forgot his card. And so the security guard wouldn't let Doc in. And knowing Doc, he probably threw a few words on him.
Yeah.
And so the security guy wasn't going to take no more. So he maced him. And I'm in the clubhouse, the visiting clubhouse in Cincinnati. I was sitting at the table where if you walk in the door, you see who comes in. And Doc's eyes all red and everything. We didn't know what was going on. And Doc said they maced him. Now, we as teammates weren't surprised. If anybody on that team was going to get maced, and probably Doc, gave him some choice words, and that's why he got maced. And one of the funniest things that Doc did, Muhammad Ali comes into the clubhouse one day.
Oh, wow.
Doc had his robe on, his white robe, as if he was boxing. And so him and Ali were sparring. Oh, they were sparring, and they had the footwork going. Doc had the shuffle. Doc had it all. Doc had the moves and everything. So finally, after about 2 or 3 minutes, Ali probably said to himself, let me punch this guy a couple of times so we can finish this up. So he punched Doc about 2 or 3 times in the chest, and that was the end of it. That was one of the funniest sights that I've ever seen, because Doc had the moves now, but Doc couldn't get it in on him to get a punch in. But it was things like that happened in our clubhouse. Dave Justy, he knew what button to push with Roberto. Roberto was laid back over his locker, and Dave Justy would walk over to Roberto and said, are you going to play tonight or what? Roberto wasn't in a real rush. But see, Dave knew what to say to Roberto to fire him up.
Oh,
and
wow.
Everybody on our team had a button that you could push. And every player knew each other's button to get them fired up. And so those were the things that I never will forget, how we came together as a team. We have the black players, Latin players, white players. We all got along so well and just pulled together, for that one common cause. And that was to bring a world championship back to Pittsburgh, in which we did. And if we would have had any problems, we wouldn't have won. Because when you look at that 71 World Series, it could easily have swung the other way. It was so close. Steve Blass was excellent. Roberto was just awesome. And those two guys were really the key guys. But in the playoffs and the World Series, if you looked at each game, every player made a contribution. And what we lacked in, as far as a key hit, Roberto took care of that. And he had a great series. I mean, he really did. And I forgot the announcer. He said, if there is a better player in the major leagues, I haven't seen him. And I was so glad for him because he always thought that he was overshadowed by Mays and Aaron. And people ask me, who would I choose? And that's I'm going to say Roberto. If you'd ask Dusty Baker, he would have said Hank Aaron.
Yeah.
If you would have asked back in the day Bobby Bonds, he would have said Willie Mays. But when you start talking about greatness, it comes down to personal preference. And, those guys, I mean, you could just put them all in a basket and pull any one of them out, and you would get production. Roberto just didn't hit the long ball, although he had as much power as the other guys. But here's a guy that, in his era, had a lifetime batting average of 317.
Yeah.
That's strong.
Yeah. Yeah, that's real strong. And, going to your Texas days right after that, I know a lot of people have always had to question why the number 0.
Okay. The reason why I chose 0 is when I was traded during that off season of 77. I was going to a new team. I was going to a new league, and everything was new. And I wanted to start all over again. That was a tough night. I did not want to leave Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. There really wasn't any legitimate reason for me to leave. But it did hurt. But the bottom line was I wanted to start all over again, and 0 was a starting point. A lot of people thought that it was an O for Oliver.
Yeah.
But it was 0. And that's another thing that people still to this day did not know and do not know, that it was a 0. And it was because I wanted to start all over again. And I asked Brad Corbett, if I could wear 0. And he said, you got it. And that's how 0 started.
Exactly. I love to hear that. That's really great. Richard Vingel, the one talking about Gibson a while ago, he said, yes, I knew Gibson's name was stitched on the bottom inside also, number 45 on the back. I guess he had his name stitched on the inside.
Yes.
Brunswick Cardinals had no uniforms. We did wear hand-me-downs. My buddy had Stan the Mans and took both of them home. That took both the home and road uniforms back home. So
that was a smart move.
Yeah, that was really.
Man, I'm gonna tell you now. You talk about great players.
Yeah.
They talk about these great players, but Stan Musial, you do not hear his name mentioned. But when you look at his stats, this guy had a tremendous career. And going back to the 60s like that, asking for autographs and things of that nature, we really didn't think a lot about that. I never asked Roberto Clemente for an autograph because at that time, it just wasn't the thing to do. Now, if this would have been in the late 70s or something, it would have been something different. I would have asked him. I would have had more pictures taken with him. But I just didn't think about it. It just wasn't thought of.
Yeah, exactly. And, of course, you won the batting title in 1982, and you batted .331, of course, up in Montreal. However, you had a batting average of over 300 for quite a few years. I mean, not just National League, you done it in both National and American League. Did you prefer one league over the other, or did it really matter?
It didn't matter. Although I am a National Leaguer.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I'm a National Leaguer. If I was pulling for, like in a World Series, I'm usually going to pull for the National League. Although there might be some American League players that I like, but I'm a National Leaguer without
Yeah,
a doubt.
exactly. Richard Bingle said that he didn't bring Bob Gibson's uniform home. He said, "Big mistake." but
I
but
agree. I
yeah,
agree with him.
yeah,
I
exactly.
don't.
So thinking back, we've got a few more questions here, but thinking back, out of all the pitchers you faced, I know you mentioned Woody Fryman. Who exactly was the toughest pitcher that you faced?
Well, up until about 3 or 4 years ago, I said none of them. but,
I love it. I love it.
but I had this friend, Dan Burkhardt, who you know.
Yeah.
He put down a list of 25 Hall of Fame pitchers or guys who possibly were close to being Hall of Famers and the batting average. Okay, so he started off with guys like Gibson, which I think it's like 340 something against Bob Gibson. They said, really? But I can always hit good pitching. I never worried about good pitching. So we come on down the line. You got the Seavers, you got Negro, 300 something. You got Seaver, 280 something. And then you come on down. I remember Nolan Ryan, if I'm not mistaken, was 275. And then it goes down. It's a big drop. And at the very bottom, I looked at the average and it said 197. I said, who in the world held me to 197 in my career? I mean, was he human or what?
Yeah.
So I looked across and it was Steve Carlton.
Oh, wow.
And I always kidded people and always said this. I said, you know what? If a man can't hit his weight, he shouldn't be in the game.
Yeah.
Thank God I played at 195. so I lucked out there. But Steve Carlton, I don't know what it was about Steve. I knew exactly how he was going to pitch me. Fastball in off the plate and then sliders away. But he probably had more success with right-hand hitters than he did left-hand hitters.
Yeah.
But, I hit the ball, but I would have never thought that I was hitting that low against anybody. 197. Now, that's pitching. That's
Yeah.
good pitching. Because even when I did hit a ball hard, it was right at the defense. And that's what good pitchers do. You can always tell a good pitcher if he's pitching according to the defense. Because if someone does hit the ball hard, the defense is there. And that's good pitching because you're not going to strike out everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to rely on your defense as well. And those are the pitchers who were successful in the major leagues.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the Rangers and stuff, Nolan Ryan, and me and Brandon been joking around. I said, our goal is also to get Nolan Ryan on here. I said, I don't know if we'll ever get a hold of him or not, but were you teammates with Nolan when he was in Texas, or was that different years?
He came after.
Okay.
Yeah, I faced Nolan in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
And he was throwing some gas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, now you talk about bat speed. I had to, my bat speed had to pick up a little bit. Yeah. I didn't know who he was, and he didn't know. It was the opposite until we got to the big leagues. But I remember him just like it was yesterday in the minor leagues. He threw hard. They had another guy on that same team named Dick Selma, who had a great fastball. His career wasn't long. He spent some time briefly with the Mets and then on to the Cubs. But no, we never played together. I wish we would have played together. My batting average has been a little higher than 270. But I faced some great pitching in my day. When I first came up, my first at bat as a pinch hitter, against the Reds of all teams. In '68, I faced Jim Maloney. Jim Maloney threw hard, but I didn't know that much. About Jim Maloney, and I struck out.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. I was the pinch hitter. I said, okay, I'm in the big leagues now. And then we had a second game, a doubleheader. And then I look at the lineup, and where am I playing? They put me in right field. They gave Roberto Clemente a rest in the second game. Now, I've never played right field before in my life.
Yeah.
So Veda Pinson hits the ball in the right center field gap, and I just took off. I didn't know if I was going to get there or not, but I got there.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, I got there. If I would have dropped the ball, what would have happened to my career?
Yeah.
I'd already struck out.
Yeah.
Now I didn't drop the ball. Now what would have happened to my career? But to break in against the Reds, that was a very interesting situation. Then after that, we went on the road trip to Chicago. I think I got maybe 8 at bats, toward the end of that season, and then the rest has been history. And I was pleased with my career. I gave my best shot. The only regret that I have when people ask me, I wish I would have been allowed to let my ability dictate how long I could have played.
Yeah.
Because I fell short 4 or 5 years that I could have easily played. But it didn't happen. I'm not angry about it. It's part of life. And it's something that you got to move on with. And I have moved on with it.
Yeah, this is something we talked about the other day too, and a lot of us think you should be in the Hall of Fame, and kind of going into the question or some of the things you're talking about there, and this may not be a fair question to you. You may be a little biased, because we all think you should be in the Hall of Fame, but what do you think? What are some of the reasons you think maybe you're not? And I think it's because at the end of your career, you were platooned, and we talked about that, and you were still hitting over 300. It wasn't like you just fell off the wagon and you was hitting, 095. You were still hitting the ball.
I was, and still could run. I really never slowed up as far as running. There are a couple reasons that I could say, but I'd rather not do it now. I really believe that maybe another year or two. I was just talking to my daughter yesterday, and she said, "Dad, it's time for you to write a book to let the fans know what kind of person you really are." Because I really believe that they have no clue of what kind of human being you are, because they talk a lot about stats, but you are more than stats as a person. And that's what I'm planning on doing. And just yesterday, I told her that I think I'm coming up again, maybe another year or two. And if I'm not voted in, and even if I'm not on the ballot. Now, if I'm not on the ballot, that's embarrassing.
Yeah.
I mean, at least put me on the ballot. I mean, show me a little respect. But if I don't make it or come close to making it, then that would be the time when I would come out with a book and let them know and let my fans know, because I'm going to tell you something. I have gotten strong fan support wherever I have gone. And I think it's only fair for me to let them know the true story of Al Oliver, because they really don't know. And that's something that I have made my mind up that I'm going to do, whether I go to the hall or not. If I don't go, then again, that's life. but I think it's time for me to come out and tell the real story, and the fans will really know. They won't be guessing. Um, they'll find out why I was so confident, why I was so positive. They'll find out a lot of stuff that only a person who knew me when I was growing up could say. And, I'm one, yes, I'm confident and I'm positive, but I really don't like to talk about myself. You know, I'll talk about hitting,
Yeah.
but as a person, no, I really don't like to talk about Al Oliver.
Well, I'm going to do a little talking about Al Oliver. There's a there's a picture right here. I'm trying to get it to come up, and you may remember this picture. I don't know if you can see it or not. This is
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
this is me and Al, and of course that was in 1989 when Al came to see me at the hospital, and I'll get it back off of here, but you know you we talk about divine intervention and why we met, and I know back then you used to go around and kind of visit hospitals and people that you know that were hurt or injured or sick. Now, you
Right.
know, I was in laying in the hospital. This was 1989, of course. I broke my neck playing baseball. There was a spinal cord injury. I had my halo on, and a lot of people said that'd probably be the only time I wear a halo, but that's a different story. But laying there, seeing Al Oliver come in, you know, being a baseball person and going through what I was going through, here comes Al Oliver, a player that you're not talking about somebody that set the bench. You're not talking somebody that played a year or two. An 18-year veteran, 303 lifetime average, come in to see me, and you talking about somebody that totally turns around your attitude. I mean, and when you came there to see me, being a baseball guy, Michael Jordan could have came to see me, but it wouldn't have been the same thing because I'm a baseball guy. So it meant more that Al Oliver came to see me than anybody else. And going through that time, I look back, it's not easy. You go through there 2 or 3 years is your rough spot when you first get injured like that.
Mm-hmm.
And here comes Al. He's left me books, hats, caps, baseball caps, and put stay positive, never give up. And you don't know how many times that I needed that those first
Mm-hmm.
3 years. And for you to do that, of course, probably means more to me than you ever know. But also, and this is something, with everything going on now, you went around and saw people and you came to see me, and people are so hooked up on color, and I'm
Yes.
the kind of guy, Al Oliver, I wouldn't care if you were pink, purple, green. You done what you done. You came to see me, and I don't think it mattered to you that I was white.
No.
And that's what people don't understand today is I think they just need to get over this color thing, and everybody's equal and just love each other, and you got good and bad in all colors, and that's
Yeah.
just the way it is.
You're right. And, I am very fortunate to have been raised in the manner in which I was raised because you know, dad's side of the family came from Alabama. And my great grandfather was a slave. Or my grandfather was a slave. And, but dad never ever mentioned color when I grew up. And I think that's the reason why I've always been the type of person that I am today. Because, as I travel around the country speaking, I've always said that we all come here the same way and we all going to leave here the same way. And the sooner we all realize that, the better off we all will be. Yes, it does bother me to see what is going on in the world today. There are good people and bad people on both sides. Yes, we all know, about slavery. Um, it's hard. It's hard to forget those days and to see what we saw in that one incident. Um, it was really tough to watch, and I think it brought a lot out in Black America, going back to the slavery days. And that's the way it was back then. Now they're talking about monuments and flags and things of that nature. And I try not to get into it, but one thing that I will say is that all of us are God's children. And one thing about God, that he never made anything that was bad. It's been something that was taught, whether it was by their parents, grandparents, or just peer pressure, people they hung around with. But it just should not be the way it is today. It's really sad. This is America, um, the land of the free, home of the brave. And that's the way that we all should look at it and leave it just like that.
Yep, I agree with you 100%. And when we pass on and go to the next life and at the pearly gates, we're not going to be judged on black and white. We're going to be judged on the life we've lived, how we followed Christ and the good and bad we've done.
Exactly. You're exactly right.
Exactly. And uh, just a question or two here. And I know this is something we talked about too. I mean, not really talked about, but you've played 18 years. Now, this is really going to be hard. Did you have a favorite teammate and why?
Um, Doc Ellis was my probably one in Pittsburgh. I always enjoyed Doc's antics. His personality I always liked because he was always funny. In Texas, Buddy Bell and Mickey Rivers. Um, Montreal, it was Dawson and Gary Carter. And then, I just spent a short time with the other teams.
Yeah.
But, someone asked me a question, did I ever have a bad teammate? And I said, I have never had a bad teammate. It was never a teammate that I played with that I did not like. And my daughter always said, well, Dad, you like everybody. I said, it's true.
Yeah.
They haven't done anything to me. And that's just the attitude I've always had. I like all people. And that's where I've always been. But I did have a couple favorites. Those that I just named were definitely some of the favorites. Of course, Roberto was at the top, but
Yeah.
he was the best player
Yes.
that I ever played with. But then when you say favorites, it's kind of different.
Yeah.
You can't compare Doc and Roberto as players and things that nature. But yeah, those I named. Buddy Bell was always one of my favorites. I always enjoyed Buddy. He was a gamer. One heck of a ball player, man. One heck of a ball player.
Yeah.
And I'm just glad I had a chance to play with him. Go to All-Star games with him. And at the same time, we would go to All-Star games together. And his dad would come, Gus Bell, who I grew up with, so I had a chance to meet him. And so, baseball and sports is great. It gives you an opportunity to travel around the country and the world to meet all types of people. And when you meet all types of people, you learn that, hey, we all are in this race together, and there's really not any difference. If you spend some time with them, you'll find out that, there's no big difference. Mm-mm.
We've got David.
Maybe the color of the skin, but that's it.
Exactly. We have David Logan here that says, hello, Mr. Al Oliver. He has my vote for the Hall of Fame. Thanks for the great stories, Al Oliver. And Richard Vingle, he also was talking about he said, you can shop for a new car, make and model, both black or white, have the same engine. Doesn't matter.
Well said.
Yeah.
The funniest thing that I've heard from guys I played with, as far as the Hall, they say they would love to see me go in the Hall.
Yes.
Because one or two things are going to happen. when it comes down to making a Hall of Fame speech by Al Oliver. Either it's going to be one of the best speeches of all time, or I would get up there and can't talk. And they say, put him in the hall because we want to see that.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Can't talk.
Now, I've heard Al Oliver speak a few times, and one of the things we do every year for the foundation is the Diamond Dinner, which Al Oliver, of course, he comes every year, and because we go back 31 years, and Al was a keynote speaker last year, done a great job, and I really can't see Al not being able to talk because I think Al will fire them up, but we're planning to do the Diamond Dinner again this year if everything clears up the coronavirus in November, and this year will be in Maysville. So if anybody wants to come see Al and all of us and kind of hang out with us, just keep an eye on our website and our foundation page for the Diamond Dinner. It's a great time. Al does a great job, and of course we love having Al there. Al's our first honorary board member, and I still need to get that certificate to you whenever all this stuff straightens up with the coronavirus. So
right.
Al's our number one man.
Well, I'll tell you what, I take it as a compliment. I enjoy coming each year, seeing some of the guys and being around Reds fans. And I always say that, one thing about the Reds fans, they're glad to see me because they beat us 3 times to go to the World Series. So they should love the Pirates.
Oh my gosh. But also our last thing right here. Now on the side, I mean, like what you do now you're an ordained minister, and you also do speaking or engagements and stuff. If people want to hear you speak or kind of book you, what do they do? They go to your website, or
they can go to the website, or they can get in contact with you.
Okay.
Between those two, I should be busy.
Yeah, I'll take care of you, Al. I know how to get a hold of you. So if they want you to speak, they can get a hold of me, and I'll take care of it.
I know you will.
Exactly, and we really appreciate you coming on, Al. And like I said, we've been friends for 31 years. You mean more to me than you'll probably ever realize. And I just love hanging out with you. And you are one of my heroes. You truly are.
Well, Dave, it's a two-way street. Thank you, man.
And take care, Al, and I'll be in touch.
Okay, you take care.
All right, you too, buddy.
All right.